Hey everyone, it's Bella from Brazil in a lockdown in Rio de Janeiro. And as usual, I wanted to share some of my thoughts with you on healthy living, pleasurable wellness, and finding purpose amidst this craziness, or maybe in spite of it, or with the help of the situation. We could learn a lot about ourselves, and make some important discoveries. And as I was thinking of what I wanted to share with you today, I really had to delve in and figure out what it is that really bothers me about this social distancing quarantine situation. Because normally the very things that are difficult for us to accept are the things that we need to learn from. For me, aside from the social aspect of it, which is really difficult for someone who is an extrovert and loves, partying, going out, hanging out with friends, nature has been something that I've been really, really missing a lot. And nature for me has a really, really powerful, is a really powerful source that I recharge from. And that's kind of what I wanted to share my thoughts on with you today, as we're disconnected from nature to understand its importance for us. When I moved to Brazil, nature was actually what really brought me here. I know that sounds very like hippie and out there, but I clearly remember that moment when I was in this beautiful state of Bahia, learning to dive for the first time. For an Armenian who grew up in the mountains without access to almost any body of water, that was scary, exhilarating. To try to learn to get into the water without being afraid of it. And when I got into that wave and I felt the flow of it, and I became almost one with that energy of the water, I really wanted to carry that moment with me, to kind of guide me through life. And that guiding force is what actually brought me here to Brazil, as I wanted to learn more from nature, learn more about this living in the present moment, living in this natural flow, and understanding that we are not only part of nature, not only are we connected to nature, and not only do we need nature, something difficult for even some of us to accept, but that we are nature. We are nature. We are guided by the same principle and the natural forces that everything is on this earth and the universe, right? So we can't see ourselves as these separate entities, because the more we distance ourselves from nature, the more we think that we are immune from things that are natural and that we can defy forces of nature, the more we start living in disease, right? The opposite of with ease, right? So I think one of the things that this virus is teaching us is that we're not immune from nature. And we've brought this upon ourselves in a certain way by becoming too civilized. We live too close to each other. These viruses would, if we were living in the ways that we used to live thousands of years ago, it wouldn't spread like that, right? So living in a civilized form is one of the reasons that we're facing this crisis. But not suggesting we should go back in time and back to the caves, but learning the lesson that we're not immune and that we are part of nature, we are affected by it in very direct ways, is a huge realization we need to make as a society and as individuals. We can't simply ignore our nature, which is, our body constantly telling us what we need, but we ignore it as much as we can. We drown our headaches with, Advils and whiskeys. We immediately take medication when we have a fever, instead of trying to go with the body's flow to really like cool down the body, which is one of the purposes of fever. When we're tired, we take coffee instead of taking a nap. So we ignore our natural ways. We don't follow our desires. Instead, we choose to be productive and on schedule and on time. We constantly are going against our nature. You perceive that? We always think that going with nature is something that animals do. We're better. We're more civilized, and we can't live our life like animals do. But that inherently cuts off some of our abilities and some of the gifts that we were given as human beings, of being able to protect ourselves from, if we are listening to our body, then we can be healthy, be emotionally well, and we can find our purpose. Only if we just followed whatever our body and our energy is dictating us. So that's one of the ways that I think we've become completely disconnected, which is paralleled by the disconnect that we have from the nature on the outside, right? So the forests, the jungles, the rivers, we see it as something beautiful and exciting, but we don't see it as essential, because as a society, we've been destroying nature little by little and faster, as of lately. And nature has been sending us signals that this is not sustainable, that this can't last, but we keep ignoring it. So nature found a new way to let us know that this can't be taken to the next level, because we really, as a society, have to look at nature, understand that it's suffering. It can't go to its limits, because we are part of it. We will suffer the consequences as well. So in this important need to reconnect with nature and with our ability to reconnect to our human nature, I wanted to give you a simple practice, which is your ability to connect to the 4 elements of nature. So the elements are actually within us and in the external world. And if you do that, you will see that you can really not only keep yourself much healthier, but also reconnect with something that's part of our way of being, and it can get you closer to who you are and accept this situation, understand what it's here to teach us, and build something beautiful from it. So first element is the element of air, right? We're breathing the oxygen. The more we become disconnected from fresh air, from oxygen, the sicker we become. This has been proven times and times again. We become all the respiratory diseases that people face in metropolis with all the pollution are a result of lack of oxygen and all the pollutants that are in the air. So understanding that the air that's out there is directly affecting our body, we're one with it, is a really incredibly important way to reconnect with that first element. Okay, it's healing power of oxygen. Then we'll look at water, which is completely polluted. The water that we're drinking is full of chemicals, depleted of minerals. So, and we're composed 95% of water. So if we're drinking polluted, unclean water, we're not replenishing the element of water within us. So that's one of the other ways that we have to try to reconnect with nature, is through the water element, right? Trying to find out where I can get clean water, and also taking your dives in the ocean and in the waterfalls when the time permits, obviously. The fire element is really critical, right? So our connection to the sun, we're so fascinated by sunrise and sunset. There's a reason for it. The sun activates so many different things in our body, including vitamin D, which is highly important for supporting our immune system. And actually, it's been shown that high levels of vitamin D can help prevent not only coronavirus, but any kind of viral bacterial infection, but can also make it less serious if you do get it. So exposure to direct sunlight is of extreme importance for our moods as well. A lot of people know that people in warmer countries are much friendlier and happier than in some of the Nordic countries where people are really disconnected from the sun. It's really simple, but it's been proven by times and times again. And then of course there's the earth, Mother Earth, or connection to the earth element. There's a number of ways that we're connected to the earth. One of the simple ways is we reap all the fruits and vegetables produce from the earth. And the more depleted we make our earth with all the pesticides, the less we get nutrients. The more extractive practices we practice with the earth, the less we benefit from the produce that we eat. So how do we reconnect with our earth element? Is by eating organic and really pure produce, fruits and vegetables. There's also walking barefoot to ground yourself is a really powerful way. So those are just simple ways for you to start thinking about your nature as a human being, as part of a bigger nature, and understanding how disconnected you are from it right now and how it's making you long for those days when you could go to the beach, could go to the park, could go to the waterfall, and realizing that when we do go back out there, and that day will happen, I hope sometime soon, when we do that we can do it with more consciousness and with respect for Mother Nature, and with the appreciation that we are a fruit of nature, that we're a part of nature, and that we have to really take care of our body that's part of this bigger nature, and connect to its elements, and respect the language of our body. So as you're going through these days, focusing on what your body is telling you, taking rest when it's necessary, drinking more water when it's necessary, like I'm needing right now, and really flowing with your body will be your first step to reconnect. And then when you can, go out there and try to practice flowing with nature and see how easy it all becomes, finding your health, finding the pleasure in everything that you do, and eventually finding your purpose with the help of nature. Thanks, guys.